If I ever get out of this house alive, gonna set the whole goddamn place on fire.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday night, and coming at you tonight, we've got special guest Boston Bob joining us. If you all remember a few months back, we had Jimmy Toucan take over with a couple of his good buddies. Boston Bob was one of those good buddies. And these are a bunch of guys that sitting there listening to all the talk. I was like, well, we got to get these guys back so we could actually talk about, get to know them individually a little bit better. And first up is Boston Bob. So how you doing, brother?
I'm doing very well. I appreciate it, and glad to be back.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us again. This is good times. I really enjoyed listening in on you guys. It was just like one of those, the conversation was so fun to listen to. And then there's that dynamic there where I was like, I actually felt like the third wheel to the party there. Just so I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit in the back and just let you guys go. And, I had a good time listening. It was awesome.
Roseville was on there, and I've known Mike for 7 or 8 years. Actually, when I gone out to the Emerald Cup, we end up meeting up. So in real life instead of just online.
That's awesome. He was a lot of fun. I'd love to get him back on again here pretty soon too.
He's a good dude.
As well as another comment of Jimmy. Just all great guys. Great talk reading. So what are you smoking on tonight? I'm
drinking beer. The last thing I smoked was Red Jaguar.
Okay.
So I got two I'm smoking on right now. Red Jaguar when I want to get stoned. And I got a really, really nice Federated Hawaiian Sativa when I want to be up and happy real quick. So those are the two I've been trading back and forth on.
Nice. Is that Red Jaguar? Was that the one you were messing with that Panama Red there when around the time you were on last time?
Yeah. So the Panama Red goes back to Snow High in 2016. And I got lucky. I just got an unbelievable male. It was, I thought it was a female actually. It was in the room with the girls. It showed so late. And we killed the other males, kept that one. And I probably kept him around for 3 years, maybe even 4, and let him go. But everything he's bred to has been fire, absolutely everything. That plant was so big that I joked around that I collected the pollen with a shovel. I mean, it was 8 feet tall, and the top 4 feet were nothing but flowers, just dumping pollen. So I've probably done 16 or 17 crosses over the years with that Panama Red. But a Red Jaguar is actually kind of a neat story. So that's Panama Red Death. And I put Jaguar pollen on Panama Red Death. And I'll make it a longer story because it's kind of cool. So the Panama Red Death, I get this beautiful male, and I'm looking online, and I see this plant called Red Death, and it's with a guy named his Instagram is Dub Chase, and he's out in Seattle. And I see the plant just online. I see a picture of it, and I looked at the genetics, and I'm like, that's a perfect match for the Panama Red. So we conversed back and forth online, never met. And I'm like, you know what? I'm coming to Seattle. So I'd like to have a cut of the plant. And he says, sure. And so it's getting closer and closer and closer. And then about a week before I'm going to Seattle, he says, oh, I got called out of town. So it's the internet, right? You don't know who anybody is, right? You get this whole process. And I'm like, oh, that's, I'm not going to end up with the plant. And he calls me like a day later. And he said, look, I'm going to be out of town, but my landlord's going to open up the house for you. So I fly out to Seattle, go to the guy's house, landlord meets me, walk in. He's got plants. I don't know how he showered. The bathroom was filled with plants. He's got plants out on the deck. And I literally walked out on the deck and I picked the plant out right away. It was Red Death number 6. It's just absolutely beautiful plant. The guy left me Fiskars. He left me bottles of water. I did the whole thing. Thing was a little tighter back then. So I took a couple cuts. I went to the supermarket and bought a salad, stuck the cuts in the salad and flew back to Boston. And I never met the guy. I mean, it's the quality of some, everybody's pissing and moaning sometimes, but there's some really good people in the community, right? So so about 2 years later, he's coming out to a wedding in Maine. Him and his girlfriend stopped over the house just to have a drink, and I think they left around 2:00 in the morning after dinner and 5 hours. And since then, he's actually moved to Colombia. He's doing a B&B and growing weed. He actually lives in Colombia now. But so a little bit long, but that's the story on the Panama Red Death. And the Panama Red Death it's moving pretty well in New York City. I gave a cut to a buddy down there, I don't know, 4 years ago, and he consistently runs it. It's a really, really good plant. So then this Jaguar comes from a guy, THCV Hunter, Crazy Mike, out on the West Coast. And it's got cherry cake, which is not cherry pie, but it's AFGUI and AK-47. But the two lines going into it are a Malawi line and a Panama line. So I got the Malawi and the Panama in the Panama Red Death, and I'm like, these should match up really, really well. So I grow out a whole bunch of Jaguars. I give away all the girls. I'm just looking for the boy. And same thing happened again. The plant's in with the girls. It's a late shower, so I go over to this person's house and I'm checking on their plants, my little doctor bag. And all of a sudden I'm looking at the sacks. And I'm like, well, this isn't a good looking girl. And it wasn't a Hermie. It was just a straight up male. So it was probably in a 20-gallon fabric pot. And say it was, I don't know, 4 feet maybe at the time. So I literally pulled the plant out of the soil and down potted it to a 5-gallon pot. So it put a huge amount of stress on the plant. And I've had discussions about this, about how when you stress them when they're in the middle of some kind of, making babies, what's it do to it? Could it be really bad? Could it be really good? Or probably a combination of both. So either way, I down potted it. And there's pictures, old pictures. I don't know if they're on this Instagram. I got shut down a couple of years ago. I lost a whole bunch of stuff. But the plant, the male was unbelievable. Just huge clusters of male flowers, dumped more pollen than any plant I've had. So I pollinated the Panama Red Death at a buddy's house. He's got the cut, and I was doing something else, so I had to pollinate at his house. So I pollinate the Panama Red Death, the whole plant. Another thing, same as the indoor guys, right? It's like a 3.5 footer. So I pollinate the plant and I let him run it out. We got 20 seeds. That was it. I've got thousands of seeds from a plant, I bred Mac. I got more seeds off of Mac 1 than I did off of this plant. So I only get 20 seeds, and then I grow them out, or I start them. I have them sex tested. I use Freeman Farmer down in Washington, D.C., like his work. And guess what? I got 20 females. So out of 20 seeds, what's the odds of getting 20 females? It's not very good. So I went through, and when the plant started growing, I could see the Jaguar and the Panama Red. You know, I mean, I did everything just because I'm figuring it had to herm, right? Because how do you get all females? And I just got 20 females. So I grow them out. And I had 4 of the, I think I lost 2 in the beginning. I ended up with 18. 4 of them hermed. And Fluff, we were talking about herms right before the broadcast, right? So I'm with you, right? It's herms don't deserve to go anywhere. So I'm looking at the 16 plants, and there's number 20. I'd call it RJ20, right? Just looked unbelievable. Like the structure was good. The root growth, like I'm a big fan of root mass. Like I up pot. Honestly, I start in a 7-ounce cup, right? I mean, I up pot 3 or 4 times so I can check root mass all the time. And the root mass on this one plant was probably double all the other plants. So I'm like, screw it, I'm keeping the plant. So I kill all the other plants and I kept the plant. And if you looked on Instagram, and I'm not kidding, it's like think of a big, it's not even a Coke bottle. It's like a quart-sized bottle, and it had 12 of them. And the plant went about 105 days, and the weed is unbelievable. But it's, you know, unlike a lot of the sativa stuff that I'm doing, where it's high, this is high in stone. Like I'm getting high, and then all of a sudden it's, holy shit, I'm stoned. So it's got a really nice impact. And I just started breeding it, but I don't know if it's going to hold true, right? Because on the siblings it hermed, but before I bred it, you know, I did the same thing. I cut it, I changed the light schedules, I let it wilt. I mean, I beat the crap out of the plant, and it never hermed. The plant's really stable. But the line itself, because I got 20 out of 20 and I got some herms, I'm not confident on the stuff. So it's gone to testers, and people have warnings on them, but so far they're looking pretty good. So that's the longest, that's a pretty long story, but that's the Red Jaguar. So it started back in 16 and kind of got to where it is today.
That's cool. That is a good story. I like that one. Do you recall your first experience with cannabis?
Yeah, easily. 1971. How many of you guys were alive in 1971?
You got me by 10 years. I'm 81. Late 81 at that.
Fluff?
You only got me by a little bit, man.
Yeah, I wasn't even taught then.
So in 71, I was in private school in New England for troubled youths. And I was smoking. I was in 7th grade, smoked my first weed. And back then we were smoking Panama Red and Acapulco Gold. And Panama Red, they didn't call it ounces back then. It was called lids. And depending who you got it from, you either got a 4-finger bag or a 5-finger bag. And it was $15. And every once in a while, when stuff would run out, there'd be some Mexican brick that would come along. So I really started with Panama Red and Acapulco Gold. And then in 72, I had the first Sinsemilla I ever got. I still can remember the kind of flavor, the taste, and the color, because everything else had, you know, was sticks and seeds, and, you know, even the good stuff back then was not, since it was not the seedless. So that Cincy I had in 72, and the only thing I heard was that it came from the Pacific Northwest, and that's all we knew. But that stuff was unbelievable. And I think that was close to the beginning on when the Sinsemilla started coming around. But yeah, the funny story there is I was in 7th grade, and I got kicked out of school. I got suspended for smoking pot. And I told my mother, I can't believe the first time I ever smoked pot, I got caught. And then in 8th grade, I got caught
First
again.
time ever, huh?
Yeah,
First time ever.
No,
Yeah.
it gets better. So in 8th grade, 5 of us get caught. They suspend 4 kids and they kick me out. They kick me out permanently. And I tell my mother, I says, it's unbelievable. The second time I tried pot, I got caught again.
I got the worst luck, Ma.
Now,
So-
how'd that work out? Does she believe any of that bullshit?
No, but I mean, at that age, I believe she believes it, right? You know,
Yeah.
you're a kid. Yeah, so that was it for me. I still remember the Panama. I liked it better. Acapulco Gold was good. And then, like I said, occasionally we had some Mexican brick. So started in 71 for me.
Well, that's cool. Wait, how about your first time you tried growing? Was it around then, or did you have to wait a little bit longer?
I tried a couple of closet grows in high school, you know, where you're using a light bulb and you're hoping it doesn't stink up the house.
Yeah.
But that was about it. And then honestly, I didn't do anything for 25 years. I started in earnest probably around not quite 10 years, say about 9 years ago. I was in Colorado and I smoked some stuff called Cindy White. And it was so good and so clear, introspective, thought provoking, not stoned, just straight high. And I'm like, holy crap. I said, now I want to make some weed because now I know you can make weed the way you want to make weed. So that's when I really, really started. And I built up a library. I don't really sell anything. I give stuff away. Even like my seeds, like I over at Dagger Gardens, because you know the FCP, Future Cannabis Project. So Peter does really nice work. So I give him seeds and he sells them and he keeps all the money. I don't get any of the money. And I've done it so that for me it's a hobby and it's fun. And I don't have any of the drama because I'm never making money. So nobody can ever say I'm doing something to make more money because I don't make any money. So the only place I actually kind of release any seeds is testers and Instagram and friends. And then every once in a while I'll put stuff over with him. And then, you know, he gets to keep doing the good work that he's doing on that program. But what was the question? Do you remember?
Still talking your first experience with weed. I think we were still trailing.
Oh
off.
yeah. So no, so when I went to Colorado and got that Cindy White, I just realized you can design weed, right? And
That's where you were going with it. You were talking about now. You were like, "Fucking, I can make weed."
Right. And like you guys, I mean, I'm in Boston, right? So you guys have a shorter growing season than I do.
Yeah.
And I love long flowering, narrow leaf sativas, NLDs, call them whatever you want. So most of the stuff that I'm breeding, I can't even grow outside. I got to grow it inside. Every once in a while, somebody wants something. I did a bunch of work on lavender and a couple other things for people that wanted some chill weed that finishes pretty quick. So I've done some of that, but I like the long flowering stuff. So it doesn't really matter where I am because I'm going to have to do it inside anyways. So I built a library. And like I said, because I don't sell anything and I'm not competing with anybody, I've been very fortunate to have people give me really nice cuts. Like over the years, I've just got some absolutely beautiful cuts of plants that normally people wouldn't give out. So, you know, if somebody asked me to keep it and not give it, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm never going to go and F2 or F3 or continue somebody's line. And I'm going to use it for crosses and the work that I want to do. In a lot of cases, I'll do 2 to 4 crosses and I'll let the plant go. So I'm not even tempted, right? Because, you know, you get a really nice plant, they get tempting sometimes. So I do the work I want to do with it and let it go. But like I said, there's some great people in the community. I've been incredibly fortunate to have people share some good cuts with me and some good beans also.
What's your favorite cut that you got right now that you've been gifted?
The Federated Hawaiian Sativa. It's like an F7 or an F8. It came from Saturnalia Seeds out in Oregon, and it's his go-to plant. And instead of, sending me beans or stuff like that, he sent me the cut of his mother plant. And actually, we were trying to breed it to the Panama Red. I sent him pollen. He failed twice. Then he sent me the cut, and I failed twice. So I just bred it to a Maroof out of Afghanistan just to do a big outcross and see what kind of mess that provides, because they're two opposite plants. So sometimes I like doing really big outcrosses. So I did that. But honestly, I'm probably going to run Panama Red or Panama Red, probably Panama Red Death, just to do a male just for this one plant. And it'll take me a year. But I think they'll go really, really well. So I love that plant. It's a beautiful cut. And then on the other side, I got a really nice cut of LA Kush Cake. And it tests out at 34%. So that stays in the library. And I play with that a little bit, but some of that stuff goes to dispensaries down here in Massachusetts. Actually, I have a pretty nice situation where two licensed facilities, one of them 60,000 square feet, the other does inside and outside. I provide the genetics to them, and they're like an R&D lab for me. So they'll grow at 100 at a time or 200 at a time. We go through the selection process. They pick the one that they're going to clone and put into the market. And then, I'll go in, and out of 100 plants, I get to pick the males. So I'll pick 10 or 20, and then I'll get them down to 10, then I'll get them down to 5. And, it saves me years worth of work that I couldn't do at home. So again, you can't hear me, but I'm knocking on wood. I've been very fortunate in that regard too. But that Kush Cake
be super sweet to be able to have that kind of testing field where you can just, here's 200 seeds to choose from, and just kind of watch them grow and be like, okay, I want that one and that one and that one and that one.
I put on my white coat, my slippers, and my hat, and I go in. I get to see them grow. The only thing you got to do with them is these guys are on, it's all inventory roll, right? So they need plants at 63, 64, and 65 days. At the Red Jaguar went 105 days. They're not touching that plant. So only the stuff that fits in that they can get done. I've got one of the guys said he'd take a risk and stretch a crop out to 75 days because he really liked the weed. But they got to fit in that window that those guys have inventory roll. So that's one thing I got to be cognizant of. And the other is they got to be 30%, right? Or they got to be 25. 25 is the low end, right? They got to be 26, 28, 30% THC, because the people going in the dispensaries go, hey, what's your strong stuff? So, and there's plenty of sativas, because they're wispy, that are never going to measure high, because half the weight is the stalk, is the stem. So the sativas never quite measure as high, but as most of us know, you get a nice sativa, it doesn't matter what the numbers say. It's a different level high.
That's one thing that, I get it, that most people don't understand, that the THC is just, it's only a part of the solution or the equation, right? So that's the thing that they want to boast about it. But at the same time, when I do go to a dispensary, it drives me nuts when you get some 18-year-old kid running up to me like, this is 33%. And it's like, okay, but what does it taste like? Flavors. And then they just, they freeze up and don't know what to say. And it's like, let's have this other half of the conversation,
Yeah, it's like it's nice when you get real smokers at the counter. I get because a lot of times with retail, some people are there just for a job, right? You got to watch that. It's nice to get the the knowledgeable people. Look for some a little bit of gloss going on. Hey, come here.
somebody who's working there because they're getting a discount.
Yeah, you know. You can usually tell.
That person likes their job. They're smiling just a little bit more through those squinted eyes.
I don't find that we get some of the like these great strains that Boston Bob was mentioning. We don't get to see them in our dispensaries much in Canada. It's legal across the board up here. That doesn't mean it's good.
Is it most of your stuff province driven?
It's completely separated into provincial legislation. Yeah, so some don't have home grow. Manitoba is. I don't know the complete laws on it. I have no need to follow those laws. I do my own thing, but I believe it was Quebec and Manitoba don't allow home grow. That may have changed or it's changing or whatever, but there's a couple provinces that don't allow it. Other than that, I believe we have the same numbers across the board once you're on the medical side. If you've applied and got what they call an ACMPR license, I forget what the acronym is, but once you're up to that level, now you're straight across the board. That would be Health Canada, which is a national thing. You're outside the province then. But.
We had a question from chat there asking what you think about sativas from around the world, and then using Durban Poison and Hazes as examples. You have
so obviously I like all that stuff. It depends what you're trying to do. So most of the Africans are going to give you a racy edge, right? So if you want to be a little more jacked up, you want to get a little more paranoid. And in that regard, sometimes I don't mind it. Like I'll have some stuff that's geared towards the African that's going to get you paranoid, and then you get to sit there and you just have to say to yourself, "Look, I'm only going to be high for 2 or 3 hours, and I'm going to be fine." And you see how you can deal with all that paranoia hitting you. So some of that stuff is, I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's fun like that. And the Panama, so I mean, obviously the Panama Red's been a very big one for me. But I added I like the Malawi in there because it adds a little edge. Because Panama is kind of a smooth sativa. Like you're not going to be gritting your teeth. You're not going to be looking out the window. It's a nice head high. Yeah, you're not peeking through the blinds, seeing who's outside. And then right now I'm doing a bunch of stuff with ties, and it's taken me, honestly, it's taken me a couple of years. I tried some ties 3 or 4 years ago, but the problem with tie is, and fluff again, right? Hermes. The tie stuff is famous for Herman. So I ran 2 or 3 different ones, and the herm rate for me is probably 15%. You know, if I grow 20 seeds and I get 1 or 2 herms, I'm not going to like it, but it might be okay. But if I'm getting 20% herms, then I'm generally not messing with the strain at all. I take it as learning experience, and I junk them. And I got a really right.
That's the worst part is too, man. The fuckers are so fluffy and shit. By the time you see that nanner, it's way too late. But
yeah, and some of them for me, I mean, I jerk them around, I beat them up, and I'm trying to get them to herm. And like, you know, we said it before, right? These plants are designed to herm, right? All of them. So if you give it enough stress, anything is going to, I don't believe there's a plant that you can't get to herm, right?
yeah, you just got to find the right trigger.
Right. And all of them, I mean, let them keep feeding them for, 2 months after they were supposed to be harvested, they'll herm. Right. I mean, you can get anything to go, but so these ties I have right now, so far, so good. I'm running a bunch of F2s, and they're literally in testing. I'm about to, I narrowed it down to 5 girls out of 20, and I put them in flower 3 weeks ago. So I know who's flowering first. I get to see the early structure of the plant. And then I think tomorrow or Thursday, I will literally cut the plant in half. I'll cut it from probably 12 nodes down to 5 to 7. I'll transplant it, so I give it a little shock on the transplant, and then I'll change the light cycle. And generally, that's when I find out if it's going to harm. And then once they make it through that, while they're in veg, I'll let them go full wilt probably twice. And if they make it through that, then I keep going the line. Like I already know the plant I want. It's just a matter of whether they're going to make it or not.
That is literally my like same testing standard. It's like repot it, fucking chop it in half, go ahead and flip it in the flower. You fuck with it a little bit more after that too. Maybe do a good fucking 80% trim to it while you do that and see what happens.
Yeah, you can mess them up pretty good. And
yeah.
the key is you take them from 24.0 down to 18.6 after they've been in veg. So now they're getting a little less, and see if that tweaks them and gets them going. But so far these have been pretty good. And like for sativas, I like the Thai and the stuff that I'm working on. The original mom came from a buddy in Colorado. Same thing. It was a cut, and it's a cut that they use in commercially in Colorado of wild Thailand. Is it Thai? Wild Thai? Yeah, it's wild Thai. It comes from World of Seeds, I think, but it's pretty tight. It's not a huge stretcher and fluffy. It's got some decent bud structure, and it's a really nice plant. So that's the original mom, and then the pollen actually came from Australia, and I had that pollen since 2019, and I pollinated this wild Thai with it. And it's called Wild Thai Buddha because the pollen came from a strain called Thai Buddha down in Australia. So I brought those together, went through the first generation, sitting at the second generation, and they're looking pretty good. We're testing the males in a different location, and the females I've got with me. So I like the Thailand. What else for sativas? I've not done a lot with Durban. I did some of Snow High stuff with the Devils, which is a big. It's basically a Durban backcross, and I've done some stuff with the Hazes, but I got to say this so it sounds right. Those guys made the Hazes like in the 80s, right? So the reality is, even though there was a good crew in California and they had a ton of plants and they were moving a bunch of stuff, you would think that you could make the haze now through all the cuts that are available, right? I mean, you have access to a lot more diversity and there's a lot more openness. So I'm trying to make some stuff using the ingredients. Like Santa Marta Gold, like I love a lot of the Colombian. Colombian's a big favorite of mine. That high on Colombian is different than most weeds. So when I finish this Thai, excuse me, I've also got some Colombian black, which comes from the eastern plains of Colombia, and supposedly, right, and it's stories, but most of that weed came from Africa. They said it came from the slaves to South America. So the black weed and it's Colombian black. I got one that's Colombian black heirloom, and one that's just called the black. I got 3 different black strains from friends over the years. Probably in the not too distant future, I'm going to run all 3 at the same time. And the reason I think the story's probably right is there's supposed to be some anise. There's supposed to be some kind of black licorice flavor that comes out of these Colombian blacks. And that stuff really comes from Africa. So kind of interesting that the seeds have been there for, 50 years, 100, 200. I have no idea how long they've been there, but that stuff's been growing in Colombia. And that's where these beans came from. So I still get a little bit of African influence, but also the Colombian. And like I said, I'm a big fan of the Colombian. I like Colombian a lot.
not necessarily Boston, but New York. Wasn't there like a Cuban black haze or something? Like I've done a little bit of like history with like strains and how they got places, but back in like the 70s, 80s, wasn't there like a black haze of some sort up in that area, up in the eastern coast?
It's downstairs right now in my basement.
Okay.
So about 4 years ago, a guy released the Cuban Black Haze was, I think the Dominicans had it in New York, and it was held pretty tight. And I'll just say that a buddy of mine from the Southeast United States released it to some friends. And I have that cut. And there's guy who's, I think they're doing a really good job, and they sell some good seeds, and they're big Piff Haze guys. Is Piff Coast Farms on Instagram, and I talked to him a couple of years ago when we were at a show together. We have the same plant. He got the same plant from the guy that I did. Like I said, he gave it out to a few people. So that Cuban Black Haze, that thing's not only is the smoke great, that plant's a trooper. I mean, I let it grow outside one year, and I figured, yep, exactly. It's a good plant. And you know what? I left it outside till November. I mean, it takes a beating, and it's not too fluffy. You'll get some decent buds out of it. It's not terribly wispy, but the high is really good. I tested on the young kids that think they're stoners, and I give them a bunch of the weed, and when they tell me back that they're like, "Holy crap, man, that was strong," I'm like, "Okay, then it's good weed."
Yeah, I wish I would have grown that one outdoors, but I did that one indoors, and that was definitely one where I was playing around a lot with trying to, because I only have 7-foot ceilings regardless, and that's before I hang the light and everything else.
Yeah, but
So
no, go ahead. I do the same thing. You can grow them in sevens. You just gotta.
I found a tight root zone was my biggest fucking ally. I tightened up that root zone, and the stretch turned into just be a gradual, even, nice. It cut it by half at least. Tight root zone was my absolute best friend in growing those hazes indoors.
And sometimes the tight root zone will give you some herms. They say that, right? But I generally haven't found it.
I didn't have that issue.
Yeah, I haven't had that issue either. The interesting part about growing the 10-footers or the 12-footers in a 7-foot space, because that's what I do, is a lot of the people say when you get the sativa, put it into flower at like 3 weeks, right? And get it going. And I do the opposite. I put it in veg for like 3 months because I'm not selling, right? So all I care about is the quality of the product. So what I'll do is I'll just train the living crap out of it and bend it up and bend it up and bend it up. And the reality is the bottom 4 or 6 branches are going to be the big buds. And you just keep chopping away at the top of the plant and bending it up, and you get them to grow in a 7-foot tent. Right. I mean, that's been, I guess I'm fortunate, but because I grow them, most of them inside. Right.
Hey, once you get your kind of hand into it, and you've kind of got your system down, it's not that bad. I mean, I've done it in the corner of a tent with a bunch of 60-day strains going with it. Once you kind of figure out how you manage that plant for your own situation, they're not so bad. If you've got something, where like my test tent's just constantly on 12-12, and I've got a corner free, for a while, it's not bad to have.
Have you ever coiled them? So you let it grow up?
No, I haven't fucked that around done that yet.
I haven't done the spiral, but I've done like a half a coil, like a circle. So I'll just tie it to the edge of like a 7 or a 10-gallon pot, and I'll just keep tying it down and tying it down. And at the end of the day, it's the side branching that becomes the primary colas.
Well, I thought about getting one of those like spiral type, looks like a Christmas tree for like, like tying something down like that and doing it all the way around that fucker just to see what would happen.
Yeah, guess what? I buy that green garden wire like 50 feet at a time when I buy it. I use that stuff like there's no tomorrow. I'm tying and bending, and yeah, it's fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, well, I just did all my transplants today. We went through, found all the sussed out all the females and stuff, kicked out the males, and so we did the transplant and chop on it. Transplant them in, chop them down. So now I'm half as tall as I was, when I started the day. So I'm all sad and shit, but I can't wait till that thing gets up there. And that's just the start of the training, right? All the good stuff happens now. So.
It's actually funny you said that. I went down and took a picture of Wild Thai Buddha number 11 because I think I'm going to post it on Instagram. I literally took it this afternoon and I look at the plant and I'm like, it's such a beautiful plant. I can't believe I'm going to cut this thing in half. I mean, it's a beautiful plant, but I got to finish the routine on it. But I took a bunch of pictures just so I could say, this is what you used to look like.
What size containers are you growing them in?
So
whatever.
I started a 7-ounce cup. I do initial root growth, probably all the way up to 3 weeks. The cotyledons will all be dead, and I'll have to start using real food. So that's when they're going to need a little more care. So then I measure the roots. I used to try to get them in a solo cup, but there's just not enough soil. From a 7 to a 16, there's not enough soil. So I go to 1 gallon pot, and I could keep them in a 1 gallon pot for 3 or 4 months. Depends what I'm doing. Depends if it's a mom. And then generally I'm going to go to a number 3 pot, which is I think 2.5 gallons. And then I'll either finish in a 7 or a 10 or outside. I try to look at the roots at least 3 or 4 times. I don't get 4 all the time, but I want to see the root structure at least 3 times. Because half the time I'm just looking for stuff for breeding, right? And the good weed comes out of it because you're always looking for good stuff for breeding. So the tougher part is when you get something that's consistent and all the root zones are the same and the structure's clean and you go, which one do I pick? I mean, to me, that's even harder.
Do you ever just say fuck it and if say you got say the example when you got the 20 females and say you got 20 plants, say when you get to the end and you either in another situation, if you say you had 5 that were just and you're like, well, what do I do? Would you do all 5 or would you just make the tough decisions and be like, no, and make the excuses to cut them?
Well, so what, especially if I know the strains that I'm using, but I've never tested the progeny, but I got a good session to do the breeding, and I did that on the Panama Red Death. I bred 4 of them, and then we smoked the weed, right? And basically 17, 18, which I've released, the buds are a little denser. Right. I mean, it's a really good looking plant and 17 is a little wispier. It's a little more foxtaily, but I like the high better. So some people would probably like the 18, but the 17 is good. And then I did, I think 2 and 15, and we never released them. And sometimes I actually throw the seeds away, just like, right, Fluff was laughing before, so you don't get tempted, right?
So I make them into seed sprout teas and they get fed back to the plants. That way there is no fucking chance.
Right. Yeah. So I'll do, if on some cases I'll do multiples, and then it's the smoke test that proves smoke test and how do they clone, right? Do they get in trouble when you re-veg them? And it takes a while. I mean, I figured the average deal is probably 2 years, right? It takes me 2 years. I've had some where I'm finishing up one right now that I started 5 years ago, and we're about to pick up some testers and test this strain. But I literally planned this particular end point almost 5 years ago. So when I'm going through my first generation of the dad side, I literally could do 2 or 3 runs, and then I'm looking for the best plant. And then on the mom side, I'm doing the same thing. But what I'm doing, which is I never say this is going to be the dad or this is going to be the mom. If I want to bring two strains together and I've already created the two strains separately that I then want to bring together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hunt the male first, because I've had good success with the males. And to me, finding a good girl is a lot easier than finding a good male. The males seem to be, it takes more work, takes more time. You're not getting any flower out of it. So whichever side of that strain produces the best male, then I'm going to go to the other side of that strain and pick the female. So that's how I do almost all the breedings. The male is the first selection, if it's a planned breeding over time. And then like something like this federated Hawaiian sativa, it's just a great female. I love the plants, and now I'm trying to figure out what males I think will go best with it. And in some cases, I don't have the male, but I got the seeds. Cloning stops. Yeah. I saw that question. I mean, to me, the goal is to find a tie strain that doesn't harm, right?
That's the hard part.
Hopefully I have it. And if I don't have it, I've spent a couple of years and I'm going to throw it away and do something else. But that's the way the deal goes.
Yeah, it's that kick in the nuts when it happens, isn't it?
Well, and like this red jaguar is going to be interesting, because I got a bunch of herms. I got 20 girls out of 20 seeds. Like none of it makes sense. And I know they weren't herms. And then I beat the crap out of this plant. So I'm going to breed it a few times. It's not something I would normally do, but the plant is, I can't, if you looked on Instagram, I'm not kidding. When you look at, I took a photo of like the top of the plant, it looks like carpet. I mean, the entire plant, the entire tent is just filled with these massive buds of foxtails, and the weed's really good. So you got to try. And if the stuff herms, I'm going to kill it. And you know what? Red Jaguar will be a clone only, and it'll be good plant, and you won't be able to breed with it. But we'll know by the end of this year.
Yeah. So that's just some dedication, just wanting to breed the ties and those long sativas anyway. I mean, just knowing that I could have a breeding project done and tested before you basically have yours fucking dried, your first one dried. It's crazy. That's just adding the craziness on top of it, man.
What, you know what it is? It's a good application. It's a good application for my OCD. That's what it is.
There you go. No, it's passion, man. Because right on. I don't mind running them. I don't mind doing all that stuff. I think there is something to those strains that take that long. They're building a lot of different cannabinoids, and just different things are happening in those strains, man. And so there's a whole lot special going on there that you just can't get out of these 50-day plants.
I 100% agree. I think what's really interesting is if you get the short plants, and let's call them indicas or indica hybrids, they're best smoked 30 days after you cure them, right? And if you leave that stuff for a year or a year and a half, it's not as good. And you take the long flowering stuff and stick it away for a year or so, it's better. I mean, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what happens, what the chemistry is, but the long,
it kind of almost always has like a natural like spiciness, and then as it sits around, it just gets more complex and more just like, that mustiness comes out, that it keeps getting more complex and more, like just sharp, and it just builds the longer it sits there.
Yeah, you said one nice word, spicy. I like spicy.
Yeah.
Spicy lets you know there's quote, call it like narrow leaves or NLDs. I like sativas, still works for me, right? But you know you got a sativa when it's spicy because you're not getting a ton of spice out of the Afghan stuff.
Yeah.
It's the so Hawaiian sativa that I had, which or Hawaiian snow, sorry, which that's a Hawaiian sativa crossed with a louse. I was like definitely like peppers. Someone ground those up, and then you started rolling those in your joint or something like that. That was really cool.
Yeah, how was that? I've actually read really good things about the Hawaiian snow. I've never seen the plant.
I plan on sprouting more here in the very near future because it was enjoyable. That's the kind of stuff where it got to be towards the end of the jar there on the last run. We knew we had a concert coming up like 2 months ahead of time, kind of, where it was like, okay, we'll save the last little jar for that concert trip kind of thing because that was going to be the rocket fuel. So if you get a chance to play with it, I would say go for it. She's fun. It's relatively short for a long flowering. It's relatively short time, like 12 to 14 weeks. I have done it. They say 12 on the pack, but I've taken it closer to 14, and it's probably a little bit better, closer to 14, but still a lot of fun at 12.
Yeah, I've heard good things on that one.
It's good stuff. You got anything coming up that you're not so much coming up, but any cuts or cultivars that you'd like to get your hands on in the near future if you could? Say the stork were to just to drop one off at your house magically.
Mullumbimby Madness. I can't even say it. That's one that I wouldn't mind playing with.
That one was on your list too, wasn't it, Caribou?
Yeah, very high.
But I want somebody who's working it, right? So, like, I have so many seeds. If I take care of myself and I live to 300 years old, I'll be able to grow half my seeds. All right, so I'm never going to get to the library that I have. So I prefer to get cuts.
Is that sorry, I see this. Chad, are you referring to Mullumbimby Madness right there when you say Yellowhammer Genetics has that?
Say yes, Chad.
All of a sudden they're gonna have a run.
Well, you know what? I know Josh, so if he's got it, I could talk to Josh.
And I know Jimmy's worked with it, saying Blackbird has it too. I know he's
I feel like we asked Jimmy last time we talked to him, and he no longer had the Mullumbimby.
Right, because I was on. Yeah, he didn't have that. I think he worked it and it was gone. I think he used it in a cross and that was it. I don't think he's really worked that one. But I'll talk to Yellow and Josh. If Josh is working it, that'd be kind of interesting. I'm trying to think, what else do I really want? These Colombian blacks that I'm going to do later this year, I think will be really, really interesting. I've heard that some of them can go like 20 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably booked out 2 years right now. I mean, this Hawaiian sativa messed me up because it's such a nice plant. So now all of a sudden I have to do something with that. But I mean, like all the work I've done on the Thai in the last few years, as it's coming to an end, if they stay, stable, which knock on wood, I think they will, because so far so good. Then I go to the Colombian blacks. So the idea is I'm going to mix the blacks in with the Thais, right? So that I get some nice Colombian black in with some Thai wheat, and I think that'll be I think that'll produce some fire. So, and I thought here's an interesting one just to kind of throw some stuff out there. When I breed, I try to breed cousins at the same time. So if I've got a male that I like, I want it to go into, I'll give you an example. This one that I've got coming out right now, I took fish piss, which is a strain that I did 6 or 7 years ago. I don't have the plant anymore. But I did a bunch of breedings, and all the progeny that's come out of fish piss, nothing has been under 25% ever. Three of the fish piss strains are actually in Massachusetts dispensaries being sold commercially. And it's funky because it's really heavy in blowfish. So
there.
we focusing on you hitting that thing?
Well, no, it's all of a sudden I was big screen. I'm like, how do I shut it off? I'm too ugly to be up there like that.
Did you have a fucking senior moment there or what? Is it hitting buttons like fucking old man on the computer? And
well, yeah, I was trying to talk to people in live chat there, and then all of a sudden I started typing, and my ugly face is bigger than it should be. And,
I just saw the chat for the first time. No, so I want to talk about this breeding for a minute. So, and the fish piss comes from blowfish, and it's very hard to describe. It's a very unique smell coming off the bag and coming off the plants and the buds, because it's not skunky, it's funky. It's if I had to describe it, it's halfway between cheese and skunk. And if you imagine it, you could smell a little bit of fish in there, but I think it's halfway between cheese and skunk. So it's got this really funky aroma, and it's quite different. So when I bred it, I always breed in pairs. So I bred it to the Mac 1, and then I bred it to OCD M15. And both of those have Miracle 15 as the father. So the two strains that I used to breed to the fish piss both had the same grandfather. So what happens is when I do this, I'm going to bring out recessive traits. So if you use the same dad and on two different strains, but there's some relation, not full relation, but like cousins almost, or stepbrothers almost, right? When there's a different relations with the mom in the two dads. And then, so what I call it is out and in. I'm taking the breeding out and hitting something that's an outcross that's not related to the fish piss or any strain, right? I've done the same with Panama Reds. So I want to go something that has no Panama Red in it, and I want to do it to two different moms, but I want the moms to have some relation. And in the Panama Red, I used like orange. I did two strains that were both orange oriented, but different. So I breed them out, and then I take those two and I bring them back. And what happens is it brings out the recessive traits like you wouldn't believe. So when I did it on this catfish, I actually got albino plants, which are pretty rare. They're not variegated. They're actually albinos. So I got 5 out of 20 that were pure white. And I thought they'd last 2 weeks. They didn't even last 2 weeks.
yeah, I was gonna say, how long did that plant last you?
Yeah, and let me tell you what, without chlorophyll, there's not a lot of action going on.
Oh, no, I've had a couple really awesome like houseplant ones, and they're all variegated, and then you see the one leaf that you're getting ready to clone is just super fucking white. You're like, oh, this is gonna be the one, and that bitch just dies. It's like, oh, fuck off.
But the variegation, like this one tie that I got from AK Bean Brains, and it's an unbelievable. It's variegated. It's not. I gave one of the full variegation ones to a guy up in Maine, but this is a mom I'm keeping. It's a chocolate tie. It's the variegation goes fine, right? I mean, it works good, but the albinos, there's nothing there. There's never any green. So it shows that I'm bringing out the recessive traits. And when I do that, I'm figuring with a bunch of bad, there's going to be a bunch of good. There's going to be stuff in the middle, and there's going to be good stuff and bad stuff. So it was like breeding the Mac, right? When you breed the Mac, I mean, I joked around. I called it gems and junk, right? I mean, some of them are so messed up and mutants that you're throwing away 25 or 30% of the plants. So if somebody's buying the seeds just straight off of that, they're not going to be real thrilled, especially because some people only pop a couple seeds.
No, but if you're dicking around, that sounds fun. And that sounds like something I need to start playing with. I love variegated plants.
Well, you know what? Chocolate Tie. Ozark Nation had them. He gave them to Bean Brains. Bean Brains worked them for 1 or 2. They're probably F7 or F8s. And about 35 or 40% of them have variegation.
I'll have to hit up Ozark again. I've got his what is it? The Federation Hawaiian. I have an old Hawaiian myself, and I was like, that sounds like a fun thing to do. So I had put in an order for him, but I forgot to order that one. Luckily, another member of the community had that one, and he was like, "You want that?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" So pretty soon there's going to be an interesting Hawaiian cross that I come out with that, because that just sounds cool. And now it makes me sound like I want to make some and then fucking wait a few generations, then cross a few and see if I can do some fuckery.
Well, what happens is what you need is cousins, and you probably have them somewhere, right? So the single parent, whether it's the mom or the dad, doesn't matter. So long as the 2 plants you have are half of them are different, but half's the same dad or half's the same mom, then use the same male on those. And then out of those 2 generations go back, you find some wild plants. I mean, I said it before we came on, those kind of seeds, you're not sending somebody, those are for hunters, right? So when I'm making those seeds, people have to understand what they're getting. They're not getting something that's F4, 5, 6, 7 that's been worked. And when you plant 20 seeds, they're all going to look exactly the same, right? And it's the same, like when you get F1s, there should be 3 phenotypes, right? Should be 25% mom, 25% dad, and 50 in the middle. And then people buy these other seeds that are F2s. F2s have there's a gradient, right? It's like this 8 or 9
Fun to hunt.
Yeah, but I mean, if somebody thinks they're getting a stable line, and there's 8 or 9 different phenos in there, and they're going, well, you know what? I know I bought the 10, but I'm growing 2 seeds because I see a whole bunch of people growing a single seed. It's like you have no idea what you're going to get. Like for me, if I grow 1, I grow 30 or 40, and then I just cull. Like if I'm growing 1 seed, you know why? It's because I only got 1 seed from the plant. That's the only reason I'm growing 1 seed. But yeah, I think understanding what the breeder's intention was when he's making the seeds, like for me, actually, I'll tell you an interesting one. So Emerald Cup 2017, I'm with my son, and I end up having a really nice, reasonably long, especially because they're working, conversation with Cornbread Ricky. And him and Chrome have put out some really good stuff over the years. And we're just talking about the industry and what it takes and what different people are doing and the seeds and that kind of stuff. And after a half hour chatting, you come down to like there's 2 people, there's 2 kind of plants, right? There's somebody who, like Chad mentioned, yellow, right? So Josh, they want seeds, right? Because in his old business, when he was doing CBD, they might plant 1,000 seeds or 2,000 seeds. So they want that to be a stable worked line where all the plants are the same. So that makes sense. And then, there's plants like, I think there's a bunch of Jack Harrows out there. Anything that's an F6 or an F7, it's not going to have a ton of vigor, but the plants are all going to be the same. So if somebody's only going to pop 1 or 2 seeds, they should be looking for something that's F4 or 5 or higher, right? And then they're buying something that's an F1 and growing 1 seed. Well, now you got a shot of 1 out of 3. And if you're doing F2s, you got a shot of 1 out of 8 or 1 out of 9. And this thing with cornbread, when I talk to Ricky, it's like, so you got the stable stuff for a certain part of the market, but especially like in the legal market, these guys aren't growing seeds. They're only growing seeds to find one plant. Then you keep the mother and you take a couple hundred cuts so the plant is consistent. But so to get that one special plant, you're not going to get that one special plant out of an F7. So that's why I mess around with bringing out the recessive traits, because I'm looking for a special plant. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to do something. I'm going to create the structure when I'm doing the breeding to bring out the recessive traits, and I'm going to get some junk, but I'm going to get some gems. And it's not a conversation you see that takes place a lot, because people are just looking at the pictures and going, well, you know what, if I grow those seeds, I'm going to get that one plant. And it's really not the case, I think.
As a novice pollen chucker breeder, I've purposely tried not to breed what would be cousins like you're describing, just thinking, oh, I like trying to go in different directions, I guess would be more of the intention. I never thought of any of this to be able to pull out recessive traits, but now I'm like really interested because I just popped recently some genetics from my very first breeding project from like 6-7 years ago. And I've got a whole bunch of stuff from the similar lines, like a few 4 or 5 crosses that were made at that exact time, and a few along the line that have come along the lines that still have those genetics in them. So I'm like, this could be fun because I like weird shit. Like when I grow like variegated plants, I saw someone in there saying they got rid of some JTRs that were variegated, which is cool. I get it if it's not your thing, but I get excited about cool stuff. Or also, like you're saying, when you find that unicorn out of many, where it's just like not necessarily variegated, but maybe that's the phenol that you want right there.
Like, bro, like I want Yee's fucking cut of my Bamalang. Like, I don't have that one. I want that one. Fuck, I don't even have it.
my fucking cross straight, and I don't even have that one.
So Fluff, I did the same thing. So I have Mac Red 3, which is single plant. And I did the Panama Red into Mac 1, and I bred it, and I gave out a bunch of seeds. And it turns out that this young kid in Massachusetts found the number 3, and it was absolutely beautiful plant. And I'm like, okay, give me a cut. So he gives me a cut because I gave him all the stuff. And then I said, okay, I'm going to grow out all the rest of the seeds, and we're going to put the Mac 3 out, and we ran it outside and inside, and it was the best plant. So we did 2 or 3 generations with 2 or 3 different people, and the reality is the best plant came from somebody that I gave the seeds to, right? So you're not necessarily going to get it, but it may be out there. You just got to be able to get it back.
I think that's another cool thing about having communities like this where you can pass seeds or cuts around or whatever, and maybe somebody does have a better one than you. And okay, well, it's easy enough to get that back. Then play around with it.
No, that's a good subject because you know what? I think people are making money and different people are in the game for different reasons, right? For me, I'm in it strictly for my ego, so somebody can tell me I did a good job. I don't care about the money, and I love the fun that you do, but you got to pass around the cuts because actually you had Rasta Jeff on a little while back, right? And I don't know why he hasn't done it, but he hasn't brought Lemon Sunrise back. I got some freebies, then I went out and bought some seeds from him, and I ran Lemon Sunrise 3 times, and I just called it LS3. The plant tested at 30%. It was like chewing lemon sweethearts, and it was really strong. And I lost the plant about 2 months ago, month and a half ago, and I had it for 5 years. Luckily, I did a couple of breedings, but I was trying to give it to somebody, and it just didn't work out, and the plant's gone. So you got a really, really nice plant. You want some friends to have it so that you can be able to get it back. This hoarding plants and keeping them for yourself and saying you got the great plant. I'd rather know that 3 or 4 or 5 friends around me or around the country, they have that same plant.
This year, not this year, last winter, the Hawaiian cut that I have, that my crew has had since '95. The ice storm came, and they're all in a centralized area. Everybody who has that cut was in a centralized area, and they all lost power in the coldest part of winter for over a week, and nobody's grow room survived anything. The fact that I had it, and one other member of our community had it, is the reason that plant is still fucking alive to this day. So yeah, it's a testament that if there's some people you can get it out to that you trust them, man, get those fucking fancy cuts out, get them out to somebody you trust, so that those things, as good as you are, shit happens sometimes.
Oh yeah, I'm 100% with you.
Yeah.
It's the lemon sunrise. That's funny. My parents have a pack upstairs right now. I'm broadcast downstairs in my parents' place right now, up here working. I went digging through my parents' seed collection there.
It's really good.
A week or 2 ago, and they're keeping it underneath their the upstairs bathroom sink, which just an open plastic Tupperware container. I'm just like, oh my god, that's got to be about the worst place you could store your seeds. But
right. Keep it near moisture, and then put it in the sunlight every once in a while. That ought to help it.
Yeah. Well, but I will say I popped 20 seeds or germinated 20, and all 20 of them gave me tails. So from there,
yeah, the one that I had was dense. Like it looked like it could pass off as an indica hybrid, but it really isn't. I mean, it's definitely a sativa oriented plant, but it grew really, really tight. So when I tried to breed it, I actually bred it to stretch out a little bit. It was too tight. So you grow it outside, you may end up with some problems. But I love that plant. I had the mom and a clone, and I lost them both. And for some reason, Jeff hasn't brought it back. I don't know what. I mean, first of all, I know he had to reverse it, because there's some golden goat natural and golden goat reversed in that, which is why I went for it. Kind of the same thing I'm talking about having the relations in the genetics. Is he had golden goat in that thing twice, and yeah, I liked it a lot. And by the way, the dab was the most lemon thing I've ever experienced. The dab was unbelievable.
I love lemon dabs. For when it comes to flower, not so much. I find it's not concentrated enough for it to really pique my interest. But when you get into dabs, that's a completely different discussion.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable plant for making dab.
Yeah, I might have to go pheno hunting through mom and dad's stuff and say, look at what you guys are running this summer.
Yeah. Oh, look, they're wet.
Yeah, oops. I guess your sink must have been leaking.
Accidentally let it go fill up a solo cup and walk by and just accidentally, oops, look what just fell in there. Oh no.
Well, it's actually, this is a pretty sweet situation I'm in here. So I'm working in the area, so I'm staying at mom and dad's. And instead of paying rent in money, I'm buying my dad grow equipment. So that's, he's all interested in trying to grow food sources as well as cannabis. So I was just and he doesn't have fuck all for grow lights or anything to kind of do this stuff properly. So I was like, you know what, I'll come hang out at your house. We'll do some gardening, hang out together. And it's turning out to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. If you could find some friends that like the idea of growing their own weed, when I upgrade tents, lights, stuff like that, I give the stuff to friends.
Yep.
So I've got outside in the summer up here, I have 9 or 10 micro grows, and Massachusetts home grow is very good. You can have 12 flowering plants. So if I'm looking for if I'm doing a project and I want to see more plants, I start all the plants and I give everybody the plant in, April, when it's a foot high and they're nice and stable. And then all of a sudden I got 100 plants outside within, 45 minutes of my house. And the only deal is if I make seed, I keep the seed, you keep the weed. Right. So they keep all the weed. They got more weed than they'll ever smoke because they're doing 4, 6, 8 plants. Then they won't smoke that much weed. And then I pick the best one and pollinate that one. I've done that quite a few times, actually. It's good to have friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish like hell I had gardeners in my area, and I don't. It's ridiculous, and I know a lot of heavy smokers, but nobody has any interest in actually growing for themselves. And it's funny because we went through quite a while where like the only way they could get weed was from a dispensary. All the black or gray market, whatever you want to call it, they were all done and over with for a while in my area. I guess they're going a bit now, but it was good, like say 6 months. Everyone's going to dispensaries and bitching about this shitty weed that they're getting. And I'm just like, well, you could just grow your own. You'll be way happier, I promise. And now there's everyone's all excited because they get some Rockstar. I guess there's someone growing Rockstar in my town, and it's like that's okay, like it's not bad. I've definitely come across worse, but when that's the best, when you're getting excited about that, I'm like, come on, like that's we can do better, like, but it is what it is. But yeah, I honestly, I think one of the things is though, for people that are not like growers as we are, the initiated or whatever, we seem to get pretty fanatical. Most of us have huge seed collections and then search out certain stuff. Whereas I've noticed that a lot of new growers that don't know any different or better, they're just happy with a bag seed because, hey, it's a plant and I'll just be happy with it. And you usually are, but it's like, okay, but what if we took that bag seed, which you came from mediocre weed, like mids, what's the odds of that bag seed being phenomenal? Now, if we take some, say, feminized seeds, just so we can get rid of the, you're a new grower and we want you to have all females, but get you some like really stellar feminized seeds to play with. And then all of a sudden you just got the killer genetics to go with. And that's your first grow instead of some mediocre bag seed.
Yeah, you never know till the second year because everybody's excited the first year till they find out how much work it is. Yeah. And then the second year, it's like, oh, I'm a little busy this year. But you know what? You get somebody who's got that little tinge of OCD that really likes doing it and loves the process and learning from the plant. Every once in a while, one of your friends turns into that person. You know what? You got a good grower.
Yeah. I'd say ADHD, it works well for that too. There's certain things I have a hard time focusing on most things, and but in the garden, I can change that, and all of a sudden I can pay attention. Yeah, and I think what it is because everything else goes away, and all of a sudden it's nothing but the garden, and it's like,
that's cool.
Let's go strip leaves and just enjoy life, for that time that you're in there. There's no bills that need to be paid. Or again, school's not calling because your kid punched some kid out or something like that. Like all the ridiculousness that we've had to deal with in life. It's just that's gone for, even if it's at 20 minutes or whatever.
No, it's nice. I mean, how many times how many days have you gone without looking at the plants? The answer is one.
Well, unfortunately, I got to go more than that because I work on the road frequently. But in this situation, I'm lucky because I brought plants to my parents' place. I brought like a 5-foot grape diamonds plant that's in the week 8 of flower because the thing is so thirsty. And I was like, I looked at my old lady yesterday. Morris like, want to come to Prince George with me? Well, we don't got anybody to feed the plants. I'm like, we'll bring them with us.
Yeah, you know what else growing helps with? procrastination.
Yes.
Because you know what? No matter what your schedule is, the plant's going to do what it's going to do. And in the beginning, you said, it's only a couple of mites. I'll take care of that in the morning. After a while, there's no such thing as the morning. When you see it, you take care of whatever you got right away. So it takes care of procrastination. Like if the plant's dried out and it needs water, you don't go, well, maybe I'll do it tomorrow. You got to do it when you got to do it. It helps with procrastination, I think, too.
I agree.
Rusty says it good. He's like, I got the gardening's a medicine as much as the weed is, and it's so true. Because my friends kind of look at me sometimes and they're like, when we're hanging out, man, you really don't smoke that much. Like for somebody who has fucking jars falling out of their pockets, I'm like, well, I don't know, it's weird. If you take it away from me, I'll probably want to smoke it all day long. But since I have it here, the comfort of knowing I've got a productive garden at my house and stuff, it's beneficial in that way as well.
Well, so here's the real question, right? You got to give up growing or you got to give up smoking. Which one do you give up?
Smoking.
Smoking.
That's not fair.
Wow, it would.
He didn't say I couldn't make fucking edibles.
There you go.
Yeah, we growing, baby. We growing.
Yeah, it's fun.
I find that I've got a wired brain that likes to move fucking 9,000 miles an hour, but that is when you're in there searching for pests or you're in there fucking really diagnosing, like, if you got an issue going on, you're in there really, the mind's able to actually focus on what, is happening here, go through the steps, remember fucking things. Like, that's fucking weird. It's like, yeah, I did that fucking 3 weeks ago. You remember? And I was like, it's so.
Yeah, I'm notebooks. I got notebooks on notebooks on notebooks. I'm getting too old. I can't remember everything.
I had my son make a application for that. So I don't even have to do it. I still got to do the notes, but everything's tracked that works for my fucking craziness. So yeah, that's how bad it was for me. Like, I couldn't even do the notes. I had to get something made tailored for my ass.
Yeah, you got to keep track. Yeah, I actually, my biggest battle was last year. I had root aphids, and most people just fry their grows. And I had it in my mom tent, and I beat them, and I kept all the moms alive. It took a lot, like a real lot, but it probably took me 2 months. But I kept all my notes in case that ever happened again, because the root aphids are probably the worst thing I've ever seen. Because you don't even know they're there till the damage is done.
I've heard that from a few different people, and I just had a new, was it too much nitrogen or something like that, and all my leaves new growths are starting to curl up and get all funky. And so
motherfuckers start screaming, "You got a root aphid," and you're like, "Oh fuck! Oh
yeah.
fuck! Oh
yeah.
fuck!"
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like getting ready to start crying or something like that. Like, that's gonna decimate my shit. After I just went through a similar situation last fall due to poorly timed breeding projects, I ended up putting myself out of like smokable harvests for a couple months. It was like, let's not.
I about freaked out. I thought one of the beds, in the fucking room got root aphids. That happens. It's just it's just me crying on the internet. I'm gonna make a post where I'm legit just gonna cry on the internet. If that motherfucker gets root aphids. So
you don't got an elevator at your house, do you?
Yeah, they're nasty.
Yeah, fuck. There was a second I thought it too. I was like, "Oh shit!" But luckily, I'm an idiot. So,
first time I seen soil mites, like the beneficial. There's little white ones. They're beneficial. Like, and I I don't look too close. The one time that they had migrated to the outside of my fabric pots, and I freaked out pretty good on that one.
I remember that. That was pretty
Until
funny.
I identified, I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck is this?
That was pretty funny.
No, you're like, settle down there, noobs. Welcome to organic land, buddy.
Right. No, I actually did kind of the same thing to myself. I smashed the bed with all I was kind of slowly getting this inoculation, this bug and putting that in, and then I'd get this bug and put that in. Well, wintertime hit and fucking bugs decided to move indoors, and I hadn't inoculated with enough motherfuckers to keep them at bay. So I just dumped a bunch in there, did a big order, and said, all right, we're just going to do it that way then. And then one day I picked up the fucking lid to my worm bin that's in the middle of that bed. And a worm bin is just, a perfect breeding ground for all those any of those mites, And I picked that shit up, and it wasn't just the normal fucking soil mites. It was all these other colored mites and smaller ones and other ones. And I was like, what in the ever loving fuck? You just had a small fucking moment, and I put the lid down, and I fucking walked a few paces, and I went back and I picked it up again, and fucking put it down. I was like, oh wait, I know what that is. But yeah, I mean, that was one of those where I had a moment.
Well, the plant keeps us guessing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. You never stop learning. That's kind of cool.
That's one of that's I think one of the addictive things about it too, right? Is even on strains where you've been growing them for multiple years, for every once in a while they'll just do something that's a little bit different, and you're just like, oh, I didn't know that.
So I'm going to tell you guys a trick. Chat GPT. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. That's the AI thing.
Yeah. Have you used it?
No.
The botanical information is like having the entire Encyclopedia Britannica at your fingertips. So I was using potassium bicarb. So my water's a little low. My water comes out of the well at 590. So yeah, I get pine trees. It's reasonably acidic. So I got to bring it up. And I've been using, I still use potassium bicarb. It depends where I am and what I'm doing. But I spent some time on ChatGPT just asking it questions about different minerals, different processes. And at the end of the day, I've been using, not all the time, but I use the AgSil. Is it AgSil 15 or AgSil 16, whatever it is? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking.
Yeah, it's a silica. So what happens is now I'm raising the pH on the water to get me to the point where it's right for the plants. And I'm doing intermittent feedings of silica, which strengthens the plant. And I would have never figured it out had I not been messing around with ChatGPT. And when I go ask it a question, when it gives me the answer, I try to ask it a different way, telling them that the answer is wrong, and then it gives you more information. So I don't take it as gospel, but you just keep asking and asking and asking. And you know what? It's like having an eco department, like a bunch of professors from an eco department, a biology department, that you ask questions anytime you want and then question them. So
yeah, we actually have a friend in the community. You know of Colton Bridge, Steve, and those guys.
Yep.
Are you? He's actually working. What's his part? Is that his partner?
Yeah.
That he's working with? Okay. They're actually doing a specific AI based on natural farming techniques and just general farming. And it's actually just ag based. It's kind of fucking neat. He gave us a little rundown with that, but yeah, I'm sure there definitely can be a lot of hurdles skipped by just asking and knowing that information got properly searched.
So yeah, so that database have like KNF and Jadam and the whole bit in
Yeah,
it.
he's got all that shit. I mean, they've got everything from like the mineral content of plants. Like, so if you break it down, like it'll help you like get expected, like, NPK ratios out of your fertilizers and shit.
Yeah, it's pretty, like I said, I mean, the fun part is you're always learning. It's really kind of cool. But I just thought I'd throw it out there. I've never really talked about it, but the ChatGPT's helped me a few times when I'm trying to figure out how to get aminos in there, or I want different minerals in there.
No, I was trying to think when you were talking about using the ag still. I couldn't remember. I used to use Herculean Harvest, I believe, from Nectar of the Gods, which is just a bone meal supplement for calcium in their line. And I would just use that, and that was my down, I believe, pH down for that. And of other natural guys, talking about using like just your labs or your ferments, because their pH on them is so ridiculously low that you just fucking pH your water down with them.
Yeah, I use citric acid when I want to bring it down.
Yeah.
I literally just get pure lemon powder from like a snack company. They sell snacks. I get pure lemon powder and I use RO water and I mix it and put a milliliter or two from, drop it in and boom, right down. So I'm just using pure lemon. I don't have to squeeze them. I don't have to do anything.
Nice.
Cool.
I love fucking creative shit like that.
It's fun. Keep talking to people. You find out new stuff.
Absolutely.
I used to use just the, like the plastic lemons you get from the store.
Yeah.
Used to just use that. I haven't done any pHing of watering in my pots at all. My cloner, I do. I have just a bottle of pH down for that.
Well, you running you running just big living soil.
Yeah, pretty well. But like I've been kind of experimenting. I was trying to get like the smallest pot I can with like a dry amendment kind of thing. So what I do is I'll mix like a peat base, like a Pro Mix HP mixed with like a third compost and a third perlite. It's been working, but it's kind of not working. If I go like 7 gallon, it works a lot better, just like everyone says. But so I'm about year 5 of indoor, so I should have it dialed, but I just keep bouncing from size to size. I'm just constantly I'm boxing, man. I'm checking this all out, man. So I'm still in the learning game, which is, I'm kind of late, but whatever.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody have good living soil in a 1 gallon pot.
No, I got 3s and it's like tough.
Right.
They either lock up like.
You get good living soil in 1 gallon pot for about a month and a half.
I was going to say 6 weeks. Good call. Yeah. So I use Coast of Maine soil, that Stonington blend. They pretty much set it up with, a nice feed for the plant, but it's going to run out. Right. So then you're either naturally or bottling or dry, you got to do something. But, because I'm keeping a bunch of 1 gallon pots, I try to do all natural and try to get living soil outside. But inside for me, it's tough because I got so many 1 gallon pots. I'm not sure it's worth the fight for me. So I do natural till, like you said, because 4 months in a 1 gallon pot, how much is left in the soil? Perlite, right? There's nothing left.
I'm trying some liquid stuff too, to like push everything along. So it's like, but it's hard to when you're trying to design a system on your own, then you're not really that smart when it comes down to what you're trying to do. I'm kind of just poking at it, but it's working.
Yeah. And different plants like different things. That's why we keep going.
So just before we started rolling with the show, you let the cat out of the bag that you like to vape a bit there. Guys, it's been one of Fluff's big things ever since he's been around. He's been a big advocate for vaporizers. G-Bay and myself have both recently come by Ball Vapes as well. Screwballs, shout out to Vape Fauna. Cal, you are the man, dude. Thank you, brother. So let's talk vapes for a bit. What's your current preferred method of vaping, or machine, I should say, rig or whatever?
I have a Pulse. It's called an Incycler, right? So it's basically a water pipe, but it's set up for the banger, and I use an e-nail, and that's my deal.
Nice.
And then what I'll do is I also have the the press with the heated plates. So I'll try a strain at one temperature and for a certain amount of time, then another one for a certain amount of time. See whether I want the flavor or the full blast. But
Yeah.
like we said before, the dab is clean. It's very clean.
Yeah, I do love me some good dabs. Limited experience with dab vaporizers, so a little bit more with flower vapes. It's,
And e-nail's always been one I wanted to play with, though, because it seems the consistency of it be fucking just awesome. Like, I think that's the one thing that I've always liked about most of my vaporizers. Once I started getting some good ones and any dab things, was just the consistency of the flavors, the taste. When the strain was the strain, you could taste the fucking strain, so that was always my favorite. And so, keeping it clean like that. Fuck, I lost my point. Never mind.
Yeah, no, you're saying the same thing though. It's like when you first do the dabs, you're using a butane torch, right? Right, because so I started with the butane, and then I realized that you could change the flavor intake, and if you keep it at, I don't know, I'm getting to like that 470, 475 area. You get more out of it because it's not all going up at the same time, and you're getting a lot of flavor, so you can pass the dab. So you're getting more out of what you put into the banger, and if you got a hero at the party, you put it at 600 and let them take the one hit, and then they're fine.
Right? Listen to him cough for fucking 30 minutes and let him be on his way.
Yeah.
That was our trick back in the day when there was the drunk, rowdy, loudmouth. I always had really good food all the time. So I was like, I got this, people. Here you go, bud. Fuck, smoke that. 20 minutes later, he's gone. You don't even know where he is.
Nice.
Fuck, peaceful again.
Someplace on the lawn sleeping.
Yeah, on the deck.
Yeah, not
Caribou, you see that we have 5% non-believers in the fucking crowd? Terrible. Fucking
what?
terrible.
believers, huh?
Fucking 5% non-believers voted no. We can't even get 50 fucking likes. You know what? Fucking when those people are sleeping tonight, the fucking ghost of Randy Savage is gonna fucking give them an elbow drop while they're sleeping.
Oh no, we're getting the
They're gonna
mythical
get.
spider that you eat at night.
I sure hope so.
Oh, the mythical spider is gonna crawl in their mouth.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Protein, motherfucker.
Oh, that's funny.
But we did get 53, they say. So that's good.
Well, hey, there we go. We're moving on up. Say a shout out to live chat.
Screw you, non-believers.
Show yourself. Now, I'd like to take a second here too. Yeah, to shout out to Ball Vape. I don't even have mine rigged up perfect. I'll show you guys. Like you're supposed to have an 18 mil like down stem. I have I found a banger that has it must be like a 17 mil opening on it. So I'm able to seal it off 95% and get some use at.
Bro, you gotta send Cal a video of you fucking making that work. That is ridiculous.
And it's hitting me hard. Like it's getting me ripped.
We can tell by looking at you, Forrest.
I know. You were calling me Forrest Whitaker earlier. I can feel I'm trying and fight to keep them even. And
you got Forrest Whitaker eye going?
Oh, I'm going hard. I'm going down hard. I passed Dan's prediction that I'd pass out at 10:15 though, so that's good. But anyway, I can't wait to get my adapter in and try it for real. I get the real actual thing. This is working, 95%. But even at 95% of my riggery here, we're doing real well with the product. It's awesome, man. Thank you so much, buddy. I will. I'm gonna preach about this to show it off because I haven't flicked the lighter, the torch, nothing. I'm done. Working for me.
Oh, dude, they're fun. Like we were smoking all day yesterday because it was a travel day. Me and the girlfriend coming up here, and you know how it is when you've been smoking joints all day. They just kind of stop working towards the end of the day, and so I was like, but once I realized that adapter piece was there and I could just use it with my rig, I was like, yeah, let's go. And all of a sudden, it wasn't long before the old lady's making fun of me and laughing at me and friend, yeah. So it was a good time. So, yeah, I'm becoming a believer in more vaping. Give it a go. I'm one of those people I haven't had a cigarette in probably more than 10 years at this point. I don't even know. I'd have to really think about it to do the math on it. But I got a smoker's cough. So, maybe find better ways.
That was kind of one of those things. Even though this is a medicine to all of us, I do think that keeping the intake methods as clean and healthy as possible is also, going to be, hugely beneficial to us. And we have tools and advancements to just do it better. And we should use those tools and advancements to do better with the medicine that, we're trying to, I put all this damn technology in this room to grow that shit. Why would I not try to consume it with the best technology I could use too?
I was thinking like back in the day, I don't know, because I was just a dumb macho kid, right? It was like the bigger the cloud, the cooler, and that kind of just turned into not an addiction, but like when you went to medicate, you went for a certain feeling, and sometimes you wanted that heavier feeling on your chest or whatever when you had a big hit. I know a lot of people that are like that. Some people would just be like, no, I just want a little hit off a joint or something, and they're good all the time. And then they can hit that big hit sometimes, whatever. But
you got that motherfucker comes in, slaps down a 6-footer, fucking clears it out, and fucking starts to pack another bowl while he's still sucking on it. Yeah.
So the volcano style, the little handheld air purifier. My friends have had a couple. I've never owned one. All that other stuff. It works great and everything. But I've always wanted an e-nail for desk convenience. Now this combines the best of two worlds. I don't have to worry about concentrates, and I have my desk convenience. So I'm liking this. I don't know. Pretty sure we got a winner here.
Yeah, I think the email that I bought was like $40. They're cheap. I don't know how long it's going to last. I came out of probably China, but you know what? It coils the banger. It heats to the right temperature, and it was pretty. It was
done,
pretty
right?
cheap. Yeah, it got the job done.
I feel like it's one of those things where, given the price of a lot of like even your basic tiny dabber gear like this was $40, I believe. So at the end of the day, by the time I break this, whether it's 2 months from now, 6 months, a year, or whatever, it doesn't owe me anything. $40 is relatively cheap for how many, that's pretty good, pretty affordable to keep you in the smoke.
Yeah. So Boston Bob, you have an e-nail set up like for a dab rig?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. My friend, he had one set up in his shop, and I made a joke. I walked by. I'm like, that's a little too convenient. He's like, dude, I honestly put it away sometimes because like every time you go for a 10 mil, man, you're over at the fucking little bench because it's hot and ready to rock. It's like, yeah, it could be good and bad.
Yeah, no, it's I prefer smoking joints actually. I like and I roll the buds. Like I nerd out a little bit.
You got to find the right bud that just gets the paper where you could just twist the paper around, and yeah, man, that's some old school shit there.
Well, or what I'm doing is I'm taking my scissors, and I'm cutting out the stem over the paper, so any of the trikes fall in the paper, and I'm doing little pieces of buds, and they're all lumpy looking joints versus the grinder. And I got the grinders, but I only do the grinders if I'm going someplace and I need to bring a bunch of joints. But if I'm smoking myself, I don't want to wreck that bud. I want to smoke the bud. So I'm just rolling little, I'm just snipping and putting in little pieces of bud and rolling the bud. That's my preferred. I like that. The dab rig, when I have a little session and the boys are over and we're passing the dab rig around.
That makes sense.
I couldn't use the dab rig on a regular basis. I'd be fried.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying with the e-nail for me would be
too easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still, there is still just some magic about a fucking joint, man. It's not super often I partake, but man, I do love smoking a good joint, and that's always been the best thing too, is when you get the weed that translates, through a vape. I mean, you could turn some pretty mid weed pretty decent. It turns fucking outstanding weed just mind blowing. But when you get a fucking joint that tastes like what you're fucking smelling, that is just an experience all its own. And, that's a wonderful thing, man. I fucking love it.
Well, Caribou said it before, right? Like, doesn't like the lemon in a joint, but likes it in the dab, right? And the reason is because all the high citrus stuff is all monoterpenes. So it burns off much quicker, right? So when you're smoking the citrusy stuff, the first quarter of the joint, that's the good stuff. Because after that, there's not much left because it's burned off. And if you smoke the sativas, there's a lot more complex terpenes that burn at a higher rate. So that joint's just as good at the end than it is in the beginning. So it depends on what kind of weed you're smoking, and the structure of the terpenes lets you know how good that's going to be in the joint. Obviously, I spend too much time studying.
No, but that's okay because we wouldn't be learning stuff like this right now. So, and you give it to us in short bursts like that too, so we have a chance to comprehend it, and then we move on. So I dig that.
Absorbable amounts.
Yeah, like you said, spicy, right? Right, and if you get a good spicy weed, that's going to make for good joint weed, right?
You know what? Actually, just talking about it got me thinking, and looking at this fucking jar of haze over here, and I was like, man, I ain't that's like the joint weed for me. That's the summer weed when I'm out mowing my lawn, fucking, and I got to smoke my fucking 4 joints mowing my lawn weed. So, yeah, it's good shit.
Yeah,
Plus to get y'all fucking hyped up and want to do it like fucking 30 miles an hour. Get shit done.
Doing the diamond cut and everything.
Be like mowing the snow in your yard tomorrow, just thinking about it.
We got a 0 turn now. Now I can just do small fucking circles to do the yard. I'll just do a fucking complete circle, like doing it from the inside out. I'll make up my fucking whole yard a bullseye.
Old lady, she looked at you shaking her head like, what the fuck is he doing this time?
Right? Because I can start in the middle. I can just fucking start as doing a donut and just fucking work my way out. I can totally do it.
You get a self-propelled
do
one
that
and just tie it to a stake, and it'll eventually unwind itself from the center.
Man, that's some lazy ass man shit right there, right?
Might work.
It looks way fucking more interesting when all the neighbors are looking at you like, what the fuck's wrong with this guy?
I got real big and did the diamond cut thing and did circles around my trees and stuff, and it looked good, but then a couple days later, that's shit. So.
Fuck it.
It's not worth it, man. Straight lines, get her done. Lawnmower way.
Fuck, grow plants on that shit.
Yeah, the Boston Bob, you grow a lot of other things. I was looking a little bit at your Instagram. Do you do vegetables and stuff?
I don't. I did some peppers last year. Did some Maui's, Did some Carolina Reapers. I talk about it and I think about it and I want to do it. And honestly, I don't do it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, and I like the idea, especially the stuff that grows in acidic soil, because that's what we've been using, right? So if it grows in acidic soil, I figure I got a better chance of growing it.
Hey, you know what? That actually just fucking sitting there thinking about that. Do you have a lot of challenges going out, or do you pretty much do a lot of remediation to make sure you're getting your soil composition back up? Or are you finding strains that really have to deal with that soil right in your area?
So I use the coast of Maine, right? Is even when I plant in the ground, I'll put 3 bags of coast of Maine down. So I'll dig it out and I'll use that soil. And one of the reasons is because I'm always looking for comparables. So if one soil is a little bit different or it's not the same soil as I mixed in one place than the other, then I don't think that I can measure the results the same. So I generally try to use all the same soil, especially when I'm doing a big run of plants. Right. And if I'm going to amend one, I'm going to amend them all. So yeah, I've stuck with that. They've, literally we get a whole pallet and takes care of us and spread it out with the local friends. Pretty good deal on the price. But I generally use that and then amendments. And like I said, I try to stay consistent because I'm measuring plants against plants.
Yeah. No, that's definitely good. Good way to get that start anyway. Even once they break through, I mean, unless you're tilling in, like 100 gal fucking pot worth, right there for one plant, they're still going to kind of grow into there. And so it's kind of interesting, they'll get those transition areas so that's kind of neat. Never thought about doing something like that.
Yeah, and underneath my soil's relatively all the same. So even as they're growing through and they're getting down there, they're all relatively getting the same kind of food base, right? I mean, it's going to be some variation, but it's not going to be a whole lot.
Right.
And last year I ran a bunch of singles. So when I ran the singles, I think I ran in 60-gallon pots. So that takes up quite a bit. I don't think I fed them till the last month or so, last 6 weeks. I didn't have to feed them.
You said 60 gal?
60-gallon, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing a couple 50s out this year, and I was kind of hoping that they would get the season, and I was thinking that would really be pushing it. And so, yeah, that kind of confirms what I was thinking.
Yeah, and I save all my soil and I put stuff in there. I've yet to reuse it in the last few years, but I save it all and I'll fully amend it and I'll go back and I'll use it again.
Yeah.
I did one 2 years ago. I took half new soil, which is the coast of Maine, and I was running sativa hybrid, but mostly sativa. And because they generally are going to go longer and need less food, I mixed in half of expended soil. So used soil, and you know what happened? I got a plant that was about half the size. So more soil is going to make the plant grow. The idea about less food, when I tried it, didn't make a huge difference. The more soil, the better plant I was getting.
Yeah, kind of always the deal, right? It's bigger, better.
Yep.
Yeah, I ended up my bed was changing up the whole room, and it was time to get over it. It was about 4 years in the running, just like a little 2x4 bed. So I scrapped what was left of it into the garden, tilled it into that, and just made a little like 4x4 plot out of it. And man, the fucking shit that came out of the I grew one plant in that little 4x4 plot, and god damn was it nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to have good use of the soil.
Yeah. Oh shit.
We're getting to be getting towards the end of our time here. Is there anything else you want to yak about, or anything? Or
I'm pretty good. I appreciate the time. This was fun.
How about any where can everybody find you? Where can they pick up anything? Where can they contact you if they want to try or test anything for you?
So, and I do send out testers. I'm at on Instagram. I'm at Boston Bob Mass, MASS. Used to be Boston Bob MA till they shut down my account and never let me back on, which cost me a lot. So that kind of stunk. And then other than testers, and I give out seeds on occasion just for people who want to grow stuff. And, you know, you look at their Instagram page because that's where they're going to contact me. And if 50% of your page shows giveaways, then you don't get seeds. And if 80% of your page shows plants, then you get a good chance of getting seeds, right? Because I like people that are growing weed, not collect them. And then at Dagger Gardens, excuse me. So what I do at Dagger Gardens, I think I got 4 strains on there right now. And I've probably had a bunch. I've probably had 7 or 8. Is I literally send them the seeds. And then he keeps the proceeds, right? Because he's running a nonprofit and they do a ton of videos and bring in a lot of people and a lot of stuff that the Future Cannabis Project does, I like. So it's my way of helping him. So occasionally I'll give them seeds that they go sell and he gets to keep the proceeds. Those are really the 2 avenues. But thank you for asking. Didn't think about it.
Oh, yeah. Much respect.
very cool. I posted the link in the live chat there as well. It's in the description below, everyone. So if you're watching this a little later, feel free to click that up, give them a follow on IG, and go get some of those beans. And give them a follow on IG. It's really cool to watch some of the stuff you're posting up there. I've never heard of you until like you came on with Jimmy Toucan that time, and just that Panama Red in the pictures there was just like such like an awesome introduction. It's like, okay, who's this dude? Let's check him out. And great stuff.
It was a great conversation. Chat was loving it. They even a lot of compliments here right at the end.
I appreciate
Hell
it.
yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way as Cariboo. I was unaware of you until you came on here to, with Jimmy, and fuck, that was a great conversation, and I hope you guys do it again, fucking someday. We'd love to have you guys come over, have a good fucking chat. Shit, maybe we could fucking join you. We'll make it a big old party.
Well, I'll have to not hit the dab rig so I can continue to actually speak intelligently.
Well, hey, man, you ain't got to do that. We can turn this into a whole different show, and it gets pretty fun.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen the shows and I watch the shows, so that's why I went for the beer instead of the pipe.
Nice.
Well,
Keep it a little more tame that way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and say hi to Marshall, who just said it was hi. I met him down at Peter's place.
Oh, hell yeah. You got to meet martial artists?
Yeah.
Fucking,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, we had a good time down there. So, so thank you all. This was really good. I had fun. Hope it helped a couple people.
I would sure hope it did. If not, at the very least, it helped them have a good time tonight. This is great stuff. And thank you again. We'd love to get you back another time as well, for another solo shot, but another takeover episode would be a lot of fun too, though.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. This was fun.
Hell yeah. All right, with that, I think we're gonna get out of here. Everyone in the live
Hey,
chat.
wait, man. We got fucking 2 minutes. All right. Well, we only got 1 minute, and I got one good question.
Okay.
We ain't fucking done this in a hot minute, but we ain't really got to talk to you on your own. And this is some kickback shit. So if you were to be an animal, if you could be any animal, what animal would you be and why?
I'd be a horse
A horse? Ah, man, how come? Horse is good.
because girls like to ride them.
All right.
Hey, you guys have a great week, huh?
You too, brother.
Oh, that's
Thanks
fucking
again.
awesome.
And
Thanks.
with that, we're gonna hit some rock and roll and get out of here because that's we can't top that.
Thanks, guys.
Take me down to the graveyard, show me a resting place. Take this worry away from me, my final bed to lay. I need asylum, in prison, forgotten and buried, forgotten and buried. Well, I get so nervous thinking about the future, 'cause I've been wrong before. Heaven never warned you of the joys of hell. The world can get so manic, silence sits so well. I need asylum, in prison, forgotten and married, forgotten and married. I get so nervous thinking about the future, 'cause I've been wrong before. Fill myself a coffin and I dug myself a hole. The pain I had buried me. The youth that want me turned me cold. I need asylum, in prison, forgotten and buried, forgotten and buried. Well, I get so nervous thinking about the future, 'cause I've been wrong before. Well, I get so nervous thinking about the future, 'cause I've been wrong before. Well, I get so nervous thinking about the future, I've been wrong before. Yeah, 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 yeah. I've been so wrong. I've been so wrong. I've been so wrong. I've been so wrong. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Have a great night, everybody.